With the bye week gone, that means there's no more pit stops for the Jacksonville Jaguars. From this point forward, it is what it is. We'll talk about it today on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Make no mistake about it, it is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen. We will be there so you do not miss an episode like the one today. It's brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us each and every day. We appreciate you. And if you're here for the first time, we'll give you a reason to come back and be an everydayer. All right, a quick rundown of what we'll go through here today. By the way, you can check us out over on Amazon Music ad-free. Make sure you check out the Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On NFL over on Amazon Music ad-free. All right. Trade deadline looms. Some people think the Jaguars are going to make a trade for a player they actually are scheduled to play against this week. We'll discuss that. Right smack in the middle of the show, the biggest adjustment. Find Travis Hunter. That is the new mantra for us here. Onboarding is done. It's time to get busy with it right now. And we'll start at the top by talking about this is the last pit stop of the season. What I mean by pit stop is a chance to retool, regroup, regather, and fix up things that you normally don't have a chance to fix up and work on when you are playing a game every single week. Teams play on Sunday, they do a quick review, they turn that thing right around on Monday, check the health of the players, and start game planning for another game that week. Well, the Jaguars didn't have a game last week, so it gave them a chance to breathe a little bit. It gave them a chance to change the tires, gave them a chance to check the oil and come up with a strategy for the next part of this race, which is going to be going from 7 to 17 games completed, and hopefully they'll be sitting in a good spot for the playoffs. So they got 10 games in a row after this, and the only thing I can tell you that they do have that might change things up a little bit is the actual trade deadline. And let me look that up real quick to let you know exactly what day that is. Looks like November 4th. That will be a week from tomorrow. So you're looking at the next 8 days. Do they do something? Probably. It sounds like they're in the market to do something. Many people are talking about wide receiver help and all of this stuff. It could possibly be. I know they're going to have to give up something to get something that's worth going out there to get. And we'll discuss that in segment number 3. But first, I think something Liam Cohen said the Monday after their last loss, when he was speaking on what do they do now moving forward. I think when he said they're going to put their best 11 players out there and go, they've onboarded Travis Hunter. They've gotten a good personal up-close look at who can do what and how they do what and how they respond and who's healthy. And they're sitting at 4-3. And normally I don't sit here and try to have sunshine and rainbows, but at the end of the day, they're a 4-3 football team. How they got there, whether or not they could have been 6-1 or none of that matters. It doesn't even matter. It's done. Just like I tell people all the time that the things that happened last year and over the last couple of decades, those things are done. Those first 7 weeks are done. They're in the books. Now you can learn from them, and I think that's what the Jaguars coaching staff is now going to be up to. But now they got to move forward. They got to know now, look, we know who we are. We know what we have. I think this is where the basketball term is used, that when things start getting down to the nitty-gritty, that coaches, quote unquote, shorten their bench. I'm not saying that the Jaguars are going to shorten their bench. I do think they will streamline their approach a little bit into more of their strengths, knowing who's there and who's available, not giving up on players, but also not hoping and wishing and allowing players to play through slumps while it hurts the team. I just think that that's what's happened a little bit. But look, you're going to depend on the people that you came into it thinking that you had. Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Allen, other players. You're gonna lean into those things and lead with those things while also understanding who it is that you want to be. But now I think at 4-3, it's right in front of them because a lot of teams are still losing. There are several teams that seem like as soon as you think they're going to make a run, they lose another game. The Jags are 4-3 and they have a shot to go to 5-3 because they play an awful team with the Raiders. And no game is given in the National Football League. We know that. The Jaguars have lost to the Bengals. They lost a couple of other real good teams in the Rams and the Seahawks. But they have kind of shown that they will play up to the competition and also down to the competition. And I think that's something that they're going to have to get fixed. But I think now is going to be the time where they look and say, okay, this is what we got to do. You've seen an approach to try to get Brian Thomas Jr. involved in the game. You've seen an approach where when Brenton Strange was healthy, that he was going to be an integral part of what they do. You've seen them also get Travis Etienne going and to get both running backs. At some point, the Jaguars in their first 2 drives have had 7 or 8 different players touch the ball. You've seen a concerted effort to get Parker Washington more snaps. I think now what you're going to see the Jaguars do is go more towards players over plays. And that could have been what they were doing when they were doing that early in the season. But I think it's going to be streamlined a little bit now. The most reliable thing that they have on their team is Travis Hunter on the offensive side of the ball. He's the one that he continues to make lemonade out of onions. When you throw in the ball and it looks like he's covered and he puts the stinky leg or the bip on somebody and he gets up the field. The question was with him onboarding at 2 different positions in the National Football League, an entirely different level. Is that or was that going to be a problem? I thought it hindered them a little bit, but I do believe this bye week probably allowed them to get a little catch up too. Okay, Travis, now that you've seen it, how are you going to approach it? Let's do it this way. You know how much time you need to spend over there. Look, it'll get real easy if you simplify things on defense and say, look, when you're in the game, you're guarding this dude. This is what you're doing. You're guarding him. You're going to be on this guy. You're going to be on this side. When we play this is what you do. And that hasn't really been the case. They don't play it that way. The Jaguars play some off man and some zone, and they do things that require everyone to kind of be in sync. So that's why, it killed me when people don't understand that it's not just about throwing him out there at corner and letting him do his thing. Well, I think a little bit of it moving forward might be throwing him out there and letting him do his thing at corner, simplifying that and allowing him to do all of the thinking when he's on offense. Because I think the Jaguars are going to realize something, and that is that Travis Hunter needs to touch the ball every single drive on offense. I think they need to come out and be very, very intentional with him moving forward. We've done all of this feeling out. He figured it out now. And now that he's actually played games, and this was a difficult thing to do because remember, when Travis left high school, he went to Jackson State. Shout out to HBCUs, but it's not Power 4 football. And then he went to Colorado State after he had that year with Dion and Shador, Coach Prime and Shador, and that's at Colorado. Shout out to Colorado, but it ain't the SEC. What we would have been asking him to do is 10 times harder than if he had come out of college and gone to Alabama to play for Nick Saban and played both sides of the ball in the SEC with that playbook. That would have been a little bit more difficult. So I think it kind of spoiled people to think that, because he's done it at every level, everywhere he's been, it's going to be very, very easy. This is the NFL, man. It is hard. But I think they are now at the point where he can be the focal point of what they're trying to do. And I'm going to tell you exactly why here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, right? But on Prize Picks, Being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on any player projections, at least two. And if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Yeah, if you'd have went more with Saquon Barkley yesterday, after I told you he was going to play against the Giants last week, you probably would have won your whole bunch of money. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it is good to be right. Today's show is also sponsored by Rougiette. That's right, man. It's Rougiette. Listen, let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometimes, including the big dogs like me, right? But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making some moves. Rougiette makes it easy to get started, right? You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. And prescribe your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. Visit RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rougiette.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use the code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rougiette, stop making excuses, man, and start making moves. Moving and grooving here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. I'm Tony Wiggins, coming off of this bye week. We all coming off of a bye week. Didn't seem like yesterday when you were watching the games that it just seemed like something was off. Everybody always talking about the Jaguars and what we are or what we aren't. They were missed yesterday because it just seemed like the action was lacking a little bit because your favorite team wasn't on the field. Well, they'll be back this week, a game against the Las Vegas Raiders after a trip to London and then a bye week. Hopefully the Jaguars have figured some things out. One thing that I think I figured out is, okay, it's time for the Travis Hunter show to begin. I'm going to play some clips. If you're watching, you'll notice that I had a little bit of a different hairstyle because that's proof positive that it's timestamped. But you can also find all of these things on any shorts that we have done in the past, wherever you get your podcast. I'm going to talk about when they drafted Travis Hunter, what the feeling was like, and why I'm so excited about now that he is on board at what's going to happen. I was pretty excited back then, too. The Jaguars needed an infusion of talent on his team. Here's what I said back in the spring. Specifically, when you consider they traded their second-round pick this year in order to move up, and they hooked that up with the first round of next year in order to move up to get Travis Hunter at the very, very top of this draft. So, yeah, I think they hit the mark because with Travis, what they did was they increased the talent level and the juice of this team, right? He's a rare person in the form of you being able to touch and affect both critical positions at wide receiver and defensive back. While those things are not necessarily a weakness, you're getting a plus player that plays two positions, and I wouldn't necessarily say that those two positions were like weak. It could have been stronger, but they weren't. All right, so the operative word is it could have been stronger. Since that clip and that little short that you just heard, the Jaguars have traded Tyson Campbell, got Greg Newsome back in return, who's on a little bit of a prove it, let me see what you got deal here with the Jaguars for the rest of this season, and then he'll become a free agent. Monteric Brown has gotten hurt after that and now come back to play for the Jags. And the Jaguars have given up 15 touchdown passes, which is only 2 less than the Jaguars have scored as an entire team this year. And they have given up a lot of passing yards. You switch it around, Trevor Lawrence doesn't rank real high in passing yards. The Jaguars have 200 more yards rushing than their opponents do have against them. But I would say that the passing game and the offense as a whole hasn't been exactly what you thought. Little did we know that Brian Thomas Jr. in his second year was going to forget how to play football and drop passes and not be very physical. And now he's the subject of a bunch of trade rumors. But this is one thing that we can learn about the draft that I've always said. Take the talent. Let it figure itself out. And I hate to sound harsh. Who cares that you had a 1,200 yard receiver on a team that won 4 games? This is what I talk about with high school recruiting all the time, too. Kids can put up a whole bunch of numbers on a team that wins 7 or 8 games, but if you want to win a championship, you have to have friction. Friction causes combustion, and combustion causes propulsion. Propulsion is liftoff. The only way you're going to ever move the needle is to do it from the inside. Guys just have to play better. The best player on the 4-win team might be the second or third best player at his position for a team that wins the championship. That's why you go out, and regardless of who you have at wide receiver, you get a kid like Travis Hunter, because now 8 games in, it looks like they're going to have to lean on him because the other guy ain't playing well. And maybe if they lean on him a little bit more and put the other guy in a complementary position, then the other guy will be like the best complementary wide receiver you can imagine on a team that actually wins games. Not blaming Brian Thomas Jr. because they actually got more wins right now with him playing bad. They have just as many wins this year with him playing bad as they did with him playing great last year. So for that, I'm telling you. And the other thing that has happened is your expectations have changed. That's why I give all of this pushback on people that sit and say, we won 4 games at this point. Those 4 games, we didn't imagine we'd be 4-3. Like, look, based on what I've seen, they should be 6-1, or at least maybe 5-2. But playing better, regardless of what the record says. I thought they would be playing better, especially offensively, and they're not. They're not playing as well. So that's why I think they're going to start leaning on Travis a little bit. At some point during training camp, I saw him with the unicorn stuff, and I said, okay, this looks a little bit differently. But then when the season started, it didn't quite add up, and because I was wondering whether or not going back and forth was going to be the thing. Here's another clip of me saying something kind of similar to that to give you an idea of during training camp where my mindset was about Travis Hunter. But one of those players is special, and that's Travis Hunter. Y'all see Travis Hunter in practice knocking the ball down and still making a play on the ball. Some people were saying it would have been incomplete. Some people were talking about, well, it's still number 88. Who is that? Let me explain something to you. Most of the people that you saw Travis Hunter playing against in college weren't as good as whoever number 88 was yesterday. I said most of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them weren't. You're in an NFL camp, there's something about you. And you're talking about a dude that's been running all of these reps on offense. He just switches over to defense and is able to flip his hips, run downfield with a dude at the very least who's on an NFL roster for training. All right, so those guys that he was running against in training camp, the dude that I'm talking about ain't even on the team anymore. But still, it showed you at that point what to get into an NFL camp, you had to be really good in college. The difference between playing guys like that and then going out and playing Nico Collins and Devontae Adams is just different. And then going out and getting guarded by the Derek Stingleys of the world, it's just a different ball game, right? Guys they're going to come at you, man, and they're comfortable with what they're doing. And the Jaguars at that time may not have been totally comfortable with Travis. I think it changes now. I think they've had some time. I think they've had this bye week. They've had this extended pit stop. They've had more time for them to say, hey, we're going to push these buttons a little bit more and lead with it. That doesn't mean they're going to forget about anybody, but we're going to push these buttons. I'm going to get more into that in just a second and then give you some maybe a little bit of talk about the trade deadline and what I think they may or may not be looking for and what it's going to cost them to give up if they're going to get something really, really good. We'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans, cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle, right? Between queues and login screens and prices jumping at checkout is very, very frustrating. I know y'all want to go to Vegas to watch the Jaguars. No better place to get your ticket than Game Time, because Game Time, the app uses and gives the advantage back to the fans. That's right. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So you ain't going to get all those surprises when you go check out and see all of those extra things sitting there trying to charge you. I pulled up Game Time, and it's just a couple of taps. I saw amazing deals about your favorite NFL teams and games as low as $100. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, the promo code is LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. And our show today is also sponsored by FanDuel, man. Listen, it's not just the NFL. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want, to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps everything so exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets. Win. Your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play the game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, slapping it around here like Wayne Gretzky. Going into the third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars. I'll get to the trade deadline stuff in just a minute. But we got some more Travis Hunter here coming up. I think the onboarding part of this is complete when it comes to Travis. I think it's time for him to get out there and get it going. Here's a more recent clip of Travis Hunter, one that I did once they started the season, and I saw him out there playing around. Check it out. I'll give you my total assessment of this, and then I'll tell you what they probably need to be targeting in the trade for a trade deadline. Check this out. And one of the biggest stories in the National Football League, the fact that Travis is attempting to play both ways in the National Football League on an extensive level, as opposed to just doing it a little bit, like Dion and like Troy Brown and maybe Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey. No, he's going full-fledged with it. A lot of people don't believe that he's going to be able to pull it off because, well, it's kind of a supernatural thing. And that doesn't mean that you're ye of little faith. That just means that you have logic and rationale, that you don't believe things can happen, especially things that are going to be going up against resistance, if you respect the people who are offering that resistance. And a lot of folks respect athletes as gladiators. That's why when they see anything new, that's sort of an outlier that, you don't naturally see all the time. Folks are really, really leery and weary about how successful it could be. Well, I do believe that he is different. Yeah, I believe he's different, but I also was not naive. You can hear it in my voice. I wasn't naive to think that it was just going to be easy, that it's just a situation where you drop him out there and let him go. I do think, though, that they have sped this process up because he has sped them up a little bit. I think, and I do believe that what happened with this is Travis has, through his effort, through how he always shows up and always competes, he's demanding more without screaming. But put more on my plate. Come on, I can handle it. Come on, man, let's go. I can see his body language, and I can tell when Liam said that in this last game that they had in London against the Rams, in the second half, we decided it was time to deliberately try to look for him more and get him the ball. And when they did that, things happened. So there's sometimes people are just so great, man, that you have to feed. You have to just dangle the carrot out there and just say, let's go. So while they won't forget other people, I think this is what they are going to lead with. Travis Hunter's going to be their number one receiver here forward. And I know they say he plays the F position. Well, they may be able to move him around a little bit. Maybe they worked on that. If they don't, they'll just have to run everything with him in the F position and at least make him their first look. That's what I anticipate. Until Brian Thomas Jr. gets it all together, and then they can go back to doing what they want to do, or they can continue to do this. I expect it to work real good this week because the Raiders are terrible. But if it doesn't, that's going to be a bigger sign and a bigger indictment that they need to do something. One of the people that people keep bringing up that the Jags need to possibly trade for is Jacobe Myers. Don't know that those two teams will make that deal before the game. I don't know. And I think going to get Jacobe Myers might require a day 3 pick. If they go the route that other people are thinking and they work something with the Jets for Quinn and Williams, well, that's a little bit different. Now you're looking at a second round pick, maybe a third, but I really believe it's a second and or a player or two. There's a lot of folks saying, would you trade Brian Thomas Jr. straight up for Quinn and Williams? At the beginning of the year, I would have said no. Now I say yeah. And anybody that would have said yes prior to Brian Thomas Jr. slumping, I wouldn't argue with him because I don't think y'all realize how good Quinn and Williams is. The question for me is, does that give them exactly what they're looking for? Quinn and Williams is a 3 technique who can probably play nose tackle. I think his strength is as a 3 technique. Some people don't run nose tackle, defensive line, defensive end, defensive end. Some people run left defensive end, right defensive end, right? And could he do both? Sure. I think you want to play him instead of Devon Hamilton, as opposed to if you had your choice, you're not going to, and then you're going to put him and Eric Armstead next to each other. Like I said, I'm not saying he can't do it, but my thing is sometimes you got to pay attention to that. Just like I told everybody in the draft about the kid from Michigan. And I remember saying this to somebody who was in the building, not a decision maker, but someone who was in the building with extensive football credentials, said, why would we take a 3 technique? We got 2 of them. That wouldn't have made sense anyway. So are they going to now do that, even though this is for a proven player? Who else is out there? Dexter Lawrence? Well, the Giants did lose another game, and now their season may be going there. That would make the most sense to me. The absolute most sense would be Dexter Lawrence. And yeah, I'd probably trade Brian Thomas Jr. for Dexter Lawrence. I'm not lying to you because one thing I can talk about ability, but another I can't talk about too much or try to rationalize a dude that's dropping balls in critical downs. And that's me saying that. You know, most people think that I have been blaming everything on Trevor Lawrence, which I have not been doing. But looking like you're not competing, and now that he's banged up, I just don't know. But to get players of that ilk is going to cost you something. And the Jaguars got to be willing to pay the cost. And it may start looking like they're mortgaging their future because they don't have a future first-round pick. And banking all of this on the fact that they can find starters with 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounders like most teams can't. It's an interesting strategy. It's going to be interesting to see what they do moving forward. I think moving forward, the mantra is find Travis. Just find Travis, get behind your lead dogs, and go. They need Trayvon Walker back too. Trayvon Walker is the best defensive lineman on this team, probably the best defensive player on this team. Not dissing anybody else. It just without him, you see they're not even the same. All right, man. Make sure y'all tap into Locked On NFL twice a day. Me and my man Tyler Rowland. He comes on early in the morning and breaks you off like a double shot of espresso and will wake you up. And then me, I slide through about 2 p.m. in the barbershop, and we keep our finger on the pulse of all of the stories from around the National Football League with the use of local experts each and every day, and clips from around the National Football League. Rainy day outside. You guys be careful. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Jaguars. 30 minutes and 30 seconds. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate you spending your time with here. Shout out to the everydayers. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.